Welcome to our show today, the Open to Hope show, brought to you by the Open to Hope and the Compassionate Friends. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my co-host and Heidi. Oh, and Heidi.
And I'm also her daughter.
I meant to say daughter. Yes. Well, Heidi, we've got a great show today, and I'm excited because we're going to be talking about sibling bereavement with somebody who we love very much, who has recently lost a sibling. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about supporting domestic partners, because we've got two couples here today who are domestic partners, and I think one of them's married. And they're going to be talking about the kind of support and the kind of things that you go through as domestic partners with a loss. Do you want to introduce our guests?
Sure. I love that we're doing this show. Sibling loss, as everybody knows, is near and dear to my heart because my own brother died. And I love that we're talking about how can domestic partners support their spouses and their partners. So the guests that we have in the audience today in the studio are David Oldroyd, who we've known for many, many years. David is a fabulous interior designer, and he is also a bereaved sibling, and unfortunately he lost his brother Robert in June of this year. We are going to be joined by his partner, Ronnie Genotti. Did I say that right, Ronnie?
You did.
Okay.
Thank you.
He is an artist and the partner in a graphic design firm. And we are also going to be talking with Hal Bromm, who is the owner of the Hal Bromm Gallery in Tribeca, and his partner, Doneley Meris, and they are married. Doneley is the founder and executive director of the HIV Arts Network, and he is an adjunct professor at Hunter University, and he has a private practice downtown in Tribeca as well. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
It's great having you on today, and two sets of partners. It's great, and I know you guys are married.
We are.
And so this is really going to be an important show because I think people need to hear more about what kind of support that you guys are giving each other and some of the issues involved. But we want to start out by highlighting the life of David Oldroyd's brother Robert, because he was an amazing person, and David's, I've known him for a while, and he's told me about his wonderful family, and we want to talk about Robert, his life, his legacy. Tell us a little bit about him, David.
He is the middle child of 5 boys. My parents had 5 boys, if you can imagine. And, he was the 3rd child, and he's 13 months younger than me. So
wow,
we were very, very close. We roomed together at college with some difficulty. We roomed together when we were young. In fact, I put a line of tape right down the middle of the room
that's like your sister.
my room had to be, my side had to be clean, and anything that crossed the line got thrown back on his side.
Oh my gosh.
Because he wasn't the cleanest person when he was younger, and that all changed when he got older. But
well, we've got a picture here now. Let's look at a picture of the boys and tell us. 5 boys. Wow, what a deal for your family.
yeah,
Which one's Robert?
5 boys. Robert is on the far left of that photograph.
And you're in the center in the blue?
I'm in the center in the blue.
Okay.
And Robert is an anesthesiologist, and the brother next to him is also an anesthesiologist. They were both in North Carolina, and partners in a anesthesia practice.
And I remember you told me that because your last name is Oldroyd, that they called him the O's or something,
yeah,
Big and Little O.
Very affectionately known as Big O and Little O.
Yeah.
And Big O was Robert, and he embodied that idea because he took care of everyone. He was known as the tall, kind one.
Wow.
He would find out something about you that was special and point it out. And he had an intuitive sense to do that to anyone, from the janitor to the CEO of the corporation. And he could find that special thing, and he could make you feel great about yourself and about that, and never forgot it. And there was this link from then on with all of these people, because Robert had this amazing innate sense to find something great about someone and celebrate it. And
Wow, that's an amazing gift he was giving people.
amazing gift.
And I know you said he was the glue that held your family together, and he was the middle, and it does remind me of my brother Scott, because Scott was in the middle of a sea of girls. There were 4 of us, and he was the boy, the only boy in the middle child, and it is interesting when that person, when that glue dies, it's such a void. And you know, I always say we as siblings can fill some roles, but a lot of roles we can never fill.
That's the way that it feels. All of us talk to each other almost every day, and oddly, it's gotten more difficult more recently after 3 months. And we're realizing how hard we want to hang on to one another, because what seemed to be that would be there forever is all really changed now, and it feels very different.
Yeah. Just so Heidi's always saying with the siblings, they want to know how your mother's doing. Is that the same with adult siblings too?
Want to know how your mother's doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or your dad?
Yeah, that's
Rather than looking at the sibling loss.
Right.
Oh,
How's your
yeah.
mom? How's
Yeah.
your mom? Yeah.
And that'll never change. You know, when people find out that your brother Robert died, they will say to you, "How's your mother, David?"
Well, I talk to her almost every day, so I can answer that question.
She's probably doing just as poorly and she's probably just as sad as all the rest of you.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
it's across the board. I mean, a loss like this hits all of us in profound ways. So my heart really does go out to your family.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Ronnie, I know that you were connected with the brothers, but the family, the parents, mom and dad or dad, weren't totally accepting of your relationship with David.
Yeah, I would say that I had not met them in the 17 years we had been together. And so when Robert passed, David flew out to North Carolina to be with his brothers to deal with the everything that you need to deal with when someone passes.
Yeah.
And so I stayed at home because I just didn't want to be a factor at that point.
But you were involved with the boys, right?
Oh, well, yeah, I knew all the brothers very
That's
well. We've been
great.
on vacations. Robert and I were particularly close.
Wow.
We spent
Buenos
a
Aires
couple
together.
weeks in Argentina together last year.
Wow,
And
that's-
so, anyways, I stayed home and I painted out my grief for a while. And then there was a funeral in Utah. And Robert had planned a big boat trip for all of us. All the family. It was going to be my first introduction to everybody.
Wow.
And so, sadly, it turned into his memorial service instead of a boat on Lake Powell. But the gift that he gave me was everybody was really defenses down, no guard, real. And I think everybody really kind of realized what love is and what's most important. And it ended up being a really beautiful way to meet the family and integrate with the entire clan.
And how ironic is that? Because that's the way Robert would have wanted it.
Yeah, oh,
Right.
exactly.
You guys to all come together like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You said several times it was Robert's parting gift to
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just
And I
honestly
know your
believe
dad
that.
came to some acceptance of you at that time, which was
Yeah. May I tell that?
Yeah.
So we, after the memorial service, we went up to their cabin, which, as we said, is a beautiful cabin at 10,300 feet in the Sierras,
Wow.
surrounded by Quakies and aspen
trees
and pine. It's gorgeous. And David's dad has Alzheimer's, and it's say
severe.
it's pretty advanced case, and he remembers people. I think he doesn't speak much, but when I was up there, I got altitude sickness because I'm from San Francisco, which is at like 80 feet.
Yeah.
And so I was lying on the sofa all day, just really sick. And David's dad was sitting kind of next to me, staring out at the elk that were going through the field. And David came over and he's like, "Oh, poor baby," and he gave me a kiss on the forehead. And I noticed that his dad saw that. And so later that night, we were making dinner, David's brother Matt and I, and David's father came up, and he came right up to me, looked me in the eye, and put his hand on my arm, and he said, "You are welcome here." 3 times, like this moment of lucidity.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was so special that we all started crying. And
That's so beautiful.
yeah, it was really sweet. And then he just shuffled away and went back to look for elk. So it was another gift
What
for
a
Robert.
Sweet, a sweet. Well, talk about your art piece that you did from him. It's lovely.
Oh, thanks. That's
beautiful.
a detail of it. It's a 5 by 6 piece that I called Hermano because David and I are all fluent in Spanish, so we had a great time in Buenos Aires, and it was just the kind of emotions I was calling back from that trip and all the wonderful time we had together, eating steaks and drinking the
Malbec.
Malbec. Thank you. Yeah. So
I love it.
yeah, thank you.
It's very
And
energetic piece and
Mm-hmm.
full of life and loss. And
What's the dimension of it?
It's 5 foot by 6 foot. That is a detail shot.
So
it's not the whole.
yeah.
And so, Ronnie, as you did that, did you feel your energy shifting, and did you feel yourself kind of working through all this pain and
for
loss
sure.
and grief? And I'm sure it brought up a lot of
There's the whole
emotions.
thing. It did, yes. Back in the AIDS days, in the late 80s, when I moved to San Francisco, a lot of my roommates, friends, etc., had died, and we'd get very used to going to the newspaper once a week and looking to see who we knew that died that week.
Right.
I mean, it was just, and at 21 years old, it was this really surreal kind of reality that came upon me. So I used to paint back then, and then I shut down for a while, and I just buried all those feelings. And so this painting is the first time that I kind of dealt again with something like somebody's death and the impact it had on me. So a ton of emotions came up.
Yeah.
A lot of anger for some reason, a lot of,
Was it anger around the fact that Robert was taken from so suddenly from the
Yeah, I
earth?
think so. Yeah.
And you guys had plans. You both had plans.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Robert, they had plans.
Right.
It is a weird thing when someone we love dies, and I know all you guys can relate to this, because even though they didn't want to die and they meant to be here, you do feel abandoned on some level.
Especially a sibling, right?
Absolutely. I definitely felt Scott abandoned me and left me with this life that I didn't recognize.
And you also talk about the fact that you had these. What are the plans for siblings?
The plans are to grow old together. We spend 80 to
Right.
100% of our lifetimes with our siblings. We think that they're going to be one of the very last people on the earth as we're dying that we even see. We'll die around the same time. So, I mean, you just feel like you're going to go through all these life stages with them, and go on vacations with them, and, it's going to go on and on and on. And
Family reunions.
exactly
Yeah.
how. Yeah.
For us, it's been very strange that way too, because it was so sudden with Robert that I certainly never ever contemplated the 5 boys always being together. We were just always going to be together because we always had been together,
Sure.
and we were all very close. So having that just suddenly snatched away, it does really shift your reality. It's strange to imagine like a piece missing.
Yeah.
Right? You wake up and sometimes it
Absolutely.
seems like a dream.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a clip that Heidi and I wanted to play for you because it talks about the loss of sisters, but it's so touching on those relationships. It was written by my cousin Colette Call-Lofkin and her brother, and Michael Call. And Michael passed away shortly after it was done. And so we wanted to play it. It's Amber Inman and Kapitha Jenkins singing about sisters. But I think just that relationship,
And
the
the-
family together.
Yeah, and the sibling bond and how close it is.
And then we want to talk a little bit further with all of you together about domestic relationships and how it is, the difficulty, or how it is supporting in the grieving process. So let's watch this.
How do I go on without you? How will I ever smile again? How can I live when all that I love is torn from my side? How can I go on without you? You who have been my truest friend, lifting me up through heartache and fear again and again. We will never be apart, we're sisters. I will always be there by your side. There are simply bonds that can't be broken by distance or time. There won't be a day when I'm not with you. You will always be safe in my heart, waiting for that world when at last our sorrows are past. But until that day, we will never be apart. There won't be a day when I'm not with you. You will always be safe in my heart, waiting for the world when at last our sorrows are past. But until that day, we will never be apart. We will never be apart.
Well, I think says it all, doesn't it? We'll never be apart. Yeah. And for Robert. So I wanted to ask you, let's start with you and Hal and Doneley. What about being domestic partners and supporting each other with loss? How is it with the families and all that kind of thing? It can be difficult, can't it?
It can be difficult. Hal and I lost two great artists earlier this year, Rosemary Castro and Barbara Kulick, 2 months apart from each other. These are wonderful friends. We've known them for many, many years. Hal has represented both of them in his gallery. And it was a shock, particularly for Rosemary, because she's like my sister. She's my older sister. I've known her for 30 years since I've met Hal, and to get a sense that I'm not going to be able to knock on her door anymore on Spring Street and say, let's have coffee. That's not happening anymore. Similarly, Barbara Kulick, she was older. She was 86 when she died. But
one of those people who you would say, gee, was sort of 70. I mean, she was full of vim and vigor. She's the sort of person who would, if she knew you were around for the weekend, she'd call up and say, so any good parties this weekend? Not what you'd expect of anybody her age. That's the kind of gal she was.
Yeah.
But I remember when your father died, and Don probably remembers when my mom died, and he was there for me in a really tough time. Tougher for my sister than me, probably, who's the youngest in the family. And what was really wonderful is that all the members of his family who are on the West Coast flew to the East Coast to be here for her memorial and to be part of that and to hold one.
So your families are being very accepting
very,
of this,
very
this
close
whole,
and supportive.
the whole community and your relationship together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How about you guys? Have you found that?
Certainly.
You were talking about talking to your brothers all the time, which was
Yeah, constantly talking to them. In fact, Ronnie's been on Facebook with them and all the nieces and nephews for years.
oh, I love this whole Facebook.
Yeah, and
thing.
I was going to ask Ronnie how he supports David, because this is a relatively new loss. I mean, your brother has just died, and it's so raw, and my heart really does go out to you. And I mean, I look at this clip we just saw and can only imagine what it's bringing up. And like you said, unfortunately, right after that was sung, the person, Michael Call, my cousin who wrote it, drowned. And so I'm just wondering, for you again, Ronnie, how are you able to support David? What are you doing, and what has that been like for
And
you?
your art.
Yeah.
Well, at first, you do what you need to do, right? But I just felt very helpless because, how do you there's somebody you love and on the floor crying and hysterically, and you have no idea how to take that pain away. And you can't, obviously, but that's what you want to do.
And you had pain because you knew him well.
Exactly, yeah. But it was about David.
Yeah.
And so you just try to be there and be a good listener, huh?
Right,
and be a good husband.
As he was, it was incredibly, unpredictably difficult. And there's nothing, especially as an adult, to have that happen. So it would have been extraordinarily difficult to do alone. I don't know how you would do it alone. You have to have those that love you rally around you. That's the only way you can get through something like that. And the family certainly has. Ronnie's been a rock and been very tender and sensitive and careful and caring, constantly caring and asking, how am I doing, and I think that's somebody said that to me. Said it's a really important thing to ask each other when you go through loss. It's not how are you doing, but how are you doing today?
I like that.
How does it feel today? Because
Yeah.
it might be different yesterday and it'll probably be different tomorrow, but how does it feel today? And it keeps you really sort of present in. I've myself tried to find something. The minute I have a tear come up, which happens every day, I force myself to think of something that makes me laugh, and there's a lot of fodder for laughter around Robert.
With your brother.
So it's a funny memory. I think you guys are bringing up something that I think is really key here. I think one of the hardest things about supporting somebody after a loss and supporting a sibling or anybody that's had a major loss is that we can't fix it. Because if I really wanted to fix it, I would need to go get Robert and bring him back in here, and he would need to be alive and well. That would be what you would want. That's truly what you want. So just to be present and supportive, it's hard, right, Doneley? Because you do this for a living. It's not easy.
It's and sometimes just being with that person, not even saying anything, just being physically with that person when you know that they're going through some difficult times. The comfort of just having somebody there is very helpful.
Yeah.
And your brother Robert died out of sequence.
Yes.
Right.
Because how
Right.
old was he?
He would have just turned 53.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not his time.
Right.
As it were. It's one thing when we have.
It's a lesson in how we cannot control our lives or anybody else's life, and I think we all forget that. I don't know that we will ever stop forgetting that, but when someone dies, the world stops. In your case, your brother is gone. You're there in shock, and you think, well, wait a minute, this wasn't planned. This wasn't. How can this be happening? This is not supposed to happen.
Right, I didn't have a say in this.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Nobody asked me,
Yeah.
right? And you don't know what to do. You're just at a loss. I mean, not only do you have a loss, but you are at a loss.
Yeah. It is. It is a very out of control feeling.
Now, one of the things that the song brought up that they sang about was that I will keep the memories alive for your children, and I know he had children, right, David? How are you? How are you and Ronnie going to help him? Have you done it for the kids? Have you done
Stay in
any of
touch
this?
with them.
Yeah.
Make sure that they feel like they're connected to us, just like they were when Robert was alive. In fact, my youngest brother, Little O, took 2 of Robert's kids to the U.S. Open a month ago because Robert was going to take them. So Matt stepped in and took them and brought them here to New York,
That's
and they
really
spent the week
incredible.
together. And my other brother flew out because it was his 50th birthday, and so the idea of staying connected and reminding one another that the love that is there is. And remembering him, one of his favorite sayings was, "Let's go make a memory." He always wanted to go do something with family and friends and make a
I love
memory.
That meant something, yeah.
I love it.
That
And
really
I-
meant something.
And I love the idea of sharing the funny stories of Robert with his kids.
Yeah.
Because as siblings, we have stories about our brothers and sisters that nobody else knows. We have a history with them that nobody else knows about.
Robert.
Yes, Hal?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, my Little O just told me a funny story. Robert was a big golfer, and they lived on Pinehurst in North Carolina, and they were playing Pinehurst number 9. Matt, the younger, was playing Pinehurst number 9 the other day, and it was a tournament. And so the director of the tournament came up, and he said, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry about your loss. I heard about Robert, and I haven't seen you in a long time. I'm really sorry about the loss of your brother. And he said, and I have an apology to make. He said, when we printed the programs for this tournament, they put Dr. Robert Oldroyd and put Robert's handicap there, and it's not yours. And Matt got a smile, and the guy was sort of confused. He says, well, it would be just like Bit to be able to go, take that.
Because he had a better handicap. So.
That's a good story.
So it's the idea of like taking those, it's heart-wrenching, but also make it you know,
Mhm.
a good memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And also, Heidi, talk a little bit about toast for the holidays and stuff for people. That, you know, holidays are coming up.
Well, just to include people that we love that have died in those rituals and in those memories. And you know, I always say for people that have children, I mean, for Robert's family, I mean, you know, talking about, okay, this is a toast for my brother Robert, who is no longer with us, but it's also a toast for all his children that are still here, and for his wife that is still here, and for his entire family that still loves him. He will live forever in our hearts. So include everybody in those kind of things.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I forgot to say when we were talking about the shock and how we can't control life is that Don's dad died after a long illness, and Don was able to be with him when he died. And I wanted to ask you as a bereavement counselor, I mean, we talked about it, but I don't even remember how you responded. Did that make it easier for you to be there?
I think because I was so close to my my father, he was waiting for me. I knew that
Yeah.
for sure. I was
Wow.
holding his hand. I saw his last breath, and I got to Los Angeles 7 hours before he died.
Wow.
So I think he knew that he was dying. My sister, who is a doctor, called and said, "It's time for you to come."
Yeah.
And the wonderful thing was Hal was there with me. Well, he was not
That's
there
great.
at that moment, but shortly after that, Hal flew from New York to be with me, and that to me is important. Having your partner be there for those difficult times is a must. I
Well,
Yeah.
thank you all for being on, and you guys are so impressive, and I love your relationships together, and you're all very
All
tender.
the love.
Yeah, full of
Yeah.
love. It was a good
And I think, like you have all said today, supporting others. We can't grieve
don't
alone.
grieve
We
alone.
grieve in community. So please reach out to, you know, Open to Hope and to all the resources that are out there for those of you that feel isolated and alone. And like we always say, others have made it, and so can you. And
Right, and if you have lost hope, please lean on ours till you find your own. And thank you for our guests, and thank you for watching this show today. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with Dr. Heidi Horsley, and we want to say God bless.